Do most scholars think that the passages in Josephus that talk about Jesus are forgeries? No. So I'm a former mythicist who looks at the claims of mythicists, and one of those claims that we'll be diving into time and time again revolve around Josephus and what he has to write about Jesus. So, one thing that a lot of mythicists don't understand is that there's actually two passages within Josephus that mention Jesus. Now, the famous one, the Testimonium Flavium, is in book 18, but there's a shorter passage in book 20. The shorter passage talks about James, the brother of Jesus, and is almost universally accepted. When you look at actual scholars of Josephus, basically all of them accept that it is authentic to Josephus. Now, the real trouble is when you come to the Testimonium Flavium or the TF. There are split views on this topic. So, when it comes to the TF, you have the mythicist position that says that the whole thing is a forgery, but really you only have maybe a handful of scholars who think that. And then you have the consensus view that the vast majority of the text is authentic to Josephus, but you have three passages that were added later on. And then you have the view that the entire thing is authentic. And you have just as many individuals who think this as you have of those who think that the whole thing is a forgery. So, why do mythicists claim that most don't consider them to be authentic? Well, it's because they've never actually read the literature. The vast majority of people who talk about Josephus have never read Josephus or any of the literature about Josephus. Now, actually, one of the most recent works on this topic is by Timothy Smith, and his work is actually called Josephus on Jesus. His argument is that the entire thing is authentic. Now, there's some caveats there because he does admit that some words have been dropped or that some meanings have been lost. But what he does in his book is he actually goes through all of the statements and he shows where Josephus uses this language. Now, what he actually conclusively shows is that everything within the TF passage has similarities within other verses within Josephus. So none of the things really stick out as not being what Josephus would have said. No, this isn't the first time that such a analysis has been done on this passage. Back in the 90s, John P. Meyer, in his book A Marginal Jew, actually goes through the entire TF and shows how the language really does suit well with Josephus. Now, in future videos, I'll actually be going through those analyses and actually show why we can be certain that Josephus wrote this text. But when it comes down to it, the vast majority of scholars agree that Josephus at least wrote most of what's in that passage. Yeah, they may say that, hey, some of this stuff is added later on, but the vast majority of it, the core of it, is seen as to be something that Josephus wrote. We really don't have any reason to deny that, and most scholars simply don't.